Good afternoon, all of you.
Good afternoon.
Noticed any important keywords in today's paper?
Disenfranchisement.
Iconography of power. Okay. Vigilantism.
Vigilantism is retaliation.
Sacrilege. Disenfranchisement. Okay.
Profiling,
Vicious.
profiling of voters.
Profiling of voters. Are the keywords? By the way, what is your benchmark of keywords? What is your definition of keywords? Not what is a keyword. What is your benchmark? There is a difference between a concept and then there is a difference between a keyword. A keyword can be a concept. Not all concepts are keywords, right? So
what I can express in 5-6 lines is consolidated into 2-3 words.
So in UPSC definition, the simple way to understand a keyword is something that you are going to write in your answers, not the topics. For example, Marriage Act, Foreign Marriage Act, all these are not keywords. They are by default concepts. If you are learning the concept of increasing the age of marriage from 18 to 21, you have to amend all these acts. So all the sections mentioned here are not keywords. So is standing committee also. Okay, but standing committee is a concept and a keyword. Why it's a keyword? The obvious criticism of present day parliament is it is not giving enough time for bills to be scrutinized. So this is one more case where government has given into scrutiny because it has religious implications. So as I told also here, the bill has been referred to standing committee. The reason being it has kind of implications on uniform civil code. In DPSP 44, what is the word? Uniform civil code. In DPSP there is a concept called as uniform civil code. We are uniform in criminal laws. There is no Hindu criminal law, Muslim criminal law, Christian criminal law. If you do a crime against X, right, if he is a citizen of India, it applies to everyone. In criminal laws we are uniform, whereas it comes to civil laws we are not uniform. There is Hindu law, there is Christian law, there is Muslim law, there is Parsi law. So there are different laws deriving from their religious denominations. So if gender justice has to be provided, okay, it has to be provided to all the girls in the country, not only to Hindu girls or Christian girls, but also to all religious denominations. So how are you going to convince the other side of the societies who does not want to marry their daughter? Wait till they reach 21. There will be socio-political, economical, lot of implications will be there. As I told you yesterday also, the ramifications in this society works in unexpected ways. So if you see India's immediate neighborhood, if you recollect your IR classes or IR concepts, the first thing is immediate neighborhood first policy. So there is a concept called as neighborhood first policy. Within that, we consider Sri Lanka as our immediate neighbor. So there is a maritime dispute going on between Sri Lanka and India. As all of you know, due to LTTE, these brackish waters or these backwaters of Sri Lanka or India were not totally exploited for the resources. So both Sri Lankan fisher community and Indian fishing community wants to explore those areas. Okay. So yesterday also there was an article which says a lot of fishermen were arrested. Today it is saying more fishermen are arrested. So why now? What are the ramifications for India-Sri Lanka relations? What should be the long-term solution? Okay. So the basic criticism is that they have crossed the maritime boundary. So there is Indian fishing boats are more or less equipped with GPS. If Sri Lankan soldiers are saying that they have crossed, we need to show some proof, scientific proof, and all those things, so that long-term solutions can be established. But this is a political problem rather than a security problem. It has to be solved at the diplomatic levels. So what consists of anti-nationals? So what is anti-national? The closest definition to anti-nationals.
Speech or any action affects the sovereignty, unity, integrity, and national security. That can be or causes any communal violence.
That is hate speech. That is hate speech. Then how is it anti-national?
Not communal.
Where is the fundamental vision of any country?
To?
Like anyone who is opposite to the basic vision.
Basic vision of the nation. Okay. Okay. Any other definitions of anti-nationals? Criticizing government. Is criticizing government anti-national? No. Why? Because Umang said so. Then? She will answer for herself, right?
We can't criticize the government.
So that is what I asked you. You said no.
Can't do that.
We can't do that one. Which one?
According to government, we can't criticize the government.
Okay. According to government. So we are following government law or constitutional law? Then? So what is the question? Umang, what is the question?
Is criticizing government
anti-national? Is criticizing government anti-national? So what is the answer? Anu here? One who disrespects the country. Okay. So I have disrespected Indian flag by accident. Am I anti-national? Constitutional laws. Okay.
Against government is anti-national.
Sorry?
Against government means anti-national.
Criticizing government is.
We can criticize the governmental laws and policies they promulgate. We can't go against the government.
No. Her. No, I just want to know. I just want to understand how well you understood polity. So just.
Government is a part of nation. So,
if I criticize government, I'm criticizing nation.
no, I'm not.
Okay.
It's not. Anti-nation is not criticizing the government.
At all. You draw a Venn diagram. I will come back. Yes. Yes, you. Aditya. He's criticizing government, criticizing nation.
Okay. Because there are opposition parties who criticize the government. So they are not for that.
Okay.
So a framework that is not accepted by majority will be anti-national.
Okay.
Same question, sir. I
Why
don't.
are you special? So that I will ask you different questions.
No, sir. No.
Okay.
I thought
Same question.
what is anti-national or criticizing these? I was. What was the question about among these two? So that's why criticizing government is never anti-national because accounting. Holding the government accountable is one of the basic tenets of democracy. So India being a democratic country, holding accountable with constructive criticism can never be anti-national thing.
Yes, Bhushri.
Criticizing the government is not anti-national because Article 19
That is the actual reason, right? That is what I was waiting for, because it's my freedom of speech and expression. Whether I cross the limit, whether I don't cross the limit, all those things will be the burden of the judiciary, not my problem. If I say Indian government is useless government, if I'm being, violating the freedom of speech, the tenets of speech, okay, that is a burden of the state, and that I have crossed the line. Judiciary has to interpret what I meant in those lines. So freedom of speech is your basic right. Yes, as you mentioned, constructive criticism. I want my country to be better. So if I criticize the government is not India. Okay, government of India is represented by the government, but not India itself. So I have all the freedom in the world under constructive way to criticize the government. That's the first crux. Second thing, the recent debate of anti-national comes into the picture because of this charismatic politics. Yesterday, as we have seen, India is Indra, Indra is India. So in the same way, if people assume that Modi is India and India is Modi, okay, criticizing anything done by Modi's government, okay, is constructed as or is looked into as criticizing India. So it's these petty politics that have reduced the bar of criticism rather than improve the state. Okay, so you have all the freedom in the world to criticize the state. So for easy understanding sake, as of now, three major things are considered as anti-national things, that is insurgencies, left-wing extremism, and terrorism. Okay, broadly speaking, if you do any of these three things, technically you are anti-national. Because he was rightly pointing out, vision of the constitution will be erased. If any of these three things prevail, the entire vision of constitution is eroded. Nagalim, if it is given, then there is no India. So that is purely anti-national activity. Left-wing extremism, they don't believe in Indian constitution. They want to overthrow the state power. That is anti-national. Terrorists, they also want to destroy the country as we know it. That is also anti-national. So hate speech, sedition, and all these things are technically not anti-national. They are crimes which are punishable by law. You are doing something against the state. Even if you disrespect the flag, National Flag Act 2002 says you are punishable. Okay, accident or not. Okay, if you have disrespected the flag, if there is proof, National Flag Act 2002 says you are liable to punishment. Okay, so that is what is supposed to be the answer. Okay, so clear. The question was, should fundamental duties be legalized or penalized? So one justification is, within the fundamental duties there are certain sections which are already backed by legal domain. Okay. Yes. Anti-national, and the term anti-national is not new. It is used even in Constituent Assembly debates also. Okay, Dr. Ambedkar uses the term. So there is anti-national is not something new that people came out with. Okay, anti-national is a very, very old term. The usage has increased in the recent times. And always remember, you have the right to criticize the government in a empirical fashion. Again, emotional arguments are not valid. Empirical arguments are always appreciated. Governance. This is an important article. For GS paper 2 governance, I think this article is very nice value addition. Social disability audit. What is social disability audit? That means if a person is using a public transport or a government building or something, how friendly is it for differently abled people? Okay, so do you have all the amenities that you are supposed to have? Sugamaya Bharat Abhiyan. Sugamaya Bharat Abhiyan 2016. So it's a scheme. It says that all the public spaces, all public offices should be as friendly as possible to the differently abled. Accessible India campaign, the same. Sugamaya Bharat Abhiyan or Accessible Indian campaign are both are same. 2016 Disabilities Act says that they should be friendly to the differently abled. So the High Court of Delhi is saying that existing public transport infrastructure has to be audited, especially for differently abled. That's a nice progressive thing. Okay, so just like environmental impact assessment, right? We should also do social disability audit or assessments, whether this building is disabled friendly or not. So if all the state governments adapt this socially disability audit, automatically the compliance ratio will increase. For example, there won't be any special toilets for differently abled. You might have the ramp, okay, for the wheelchairs, but you don't have separate toilets. Not separate toilets. Within the toilets, there are no, amenities for differently abled. That is also a problematic scenario. So like this, it increases the audit. So this is a keyword. Social disability audit is both a concept and a keyword, right? You can happily skip this article by Ananya Vajpayee, changing the iconography of power. Okay. Thinking before linking. Now, government wants to link electoral cards to Aadhaar cards. As usual, Hindu is having some constructive criticism. Aadhaar is not mandatory. That is what Supreme Court has said in Puttaswamy versus Union of India judgment. Yes, Aadhaar is not mandatory unless there is something relevant to Consolidated Fund of India or funds are flowing from Consolidated Fund of India. So Aadhaar is not mandatory. You should always provide sufficient other identity cards. So tomorrow Kirtana went to Aadhaar center to link her Aadhaar card with or she wants to vote in the next elections. Okay, her voter card is not linked to Aadhaar or she does not want to provide that Aadhaar linkage. Okay, so the election officer may or may not accept any other identity card. Then she is forced to link Aadhaar to her identity card. So why not? Why only Aadhaar? Why not other licenses like license, PAN card or something? Yes, why not simply the existing voter ID card itself? So as a citizen of this country, I should have that freedom to say no to not use Aadhaar. But as Hindu rightly captures, if you see, Aadhaar requirement is said to be voluntary in theory, but in practice it can be made mandatory. Even if you fill a UPSC form, okay, there is only one proof, one space for identity, that is Aadhaar card. Okay, you cannot enter your PAN number or you cannot give your license card. Only Aadhaar is asked by UPSC. So it's voluntary. At the same time, it's mandatory. So in theory, it's voluntary. In practice, it is mandatory because it's a Hobson's choice. What is Hobson's choice? Hobson, Hobson, Hobson's choice. Have you ever heard that term? Hobson's choice. What is Hobson's choice? Have you seen Bommarillu movie?
Yes, that's what is the thing even I thought.
That is Hobson's choice. That means normally I will ask you to catch either of the fingers. Now catch a finger. Okay, I'm giving you only one option. In practicality, I'm giving you only one option, but it appears like I have given you two options. Okay, I will beat you or you will get beaten by me. Okay, so either of the one, the beating is for you only. So it's a Hobson's choice. It's an appearance of I have given you a choice. It originates from a person called as Hobson, who used to sell ponies, horses. So if you go to him, you will get the worst possible outcome. So in the same way, government is giving us a options choice, more or less. That is a criticism from Hindu point of view or editorial point of view. But if you are an administrator, you are very happy that you will eliminate a lot of bogus votes, especially in bordering districts like Bangladesh, West Bengal, or in Punjab and all these areas, because a lot of bogus votes will be eliminated. But also at the same time, Aadhaar is not a proof of citizenship. Aadhaar is just a identity card. So illegal migrants are also having a lot of Aadhaar cards. So even Aadhaar is not perfect. Okay. So the efficacy of these things will be spilled over into long run. That means think of it. One day government will pass a bill which says Aadhaar is everything. Okay, you have to re-verify your biometric details. You have to prove that it will also be made a citizenship card or something like that. Then what will happen? Just like the social security number in USA, everything will be Aadhaar. Aadhaar is your voter card. Aadhaar is your driving license. Aadhaar is your house rental agreement. Aadhaar is your bank. Aadhaar is your facial recognition. Aadhaar is everything. Slowly, we will move towards that one particular unified project. With increase in technology and blockchain, automatically, if I say this is my face, facial recognition technology will identify me. So the Aadhaar will also root out non-Indians, okay, or illegal immigrants who got Aadhaar card. So slowly, government will weed out the problem in Aadhaar system also. It will make it foolproof. So after a particular date, let's say 2027 or something, everybody who is having Aadhaar is also considered as Indian citizen, something like that. Yes, facial recognition, payments, everything will be Aadhaar. Okay, it's very obvious, right? That is the logical conclusion of Aadhaar. Why have 10 cards? Do you have license? Check. Yes. Done. Yes or no? The server will check whether I'm actually having a license or not. Biometrics is the next proof. Okay. That is presently not the mandate of Aadhaar, but it will be. Yes.
I'm asked to link the Aadhaar and the voter ID. I would link it without a second. Who are the people who don't want to link it? Why is it?
Privacy. I'm a privacy activist. I don't want my Aadhaar to be. That is not the purpose. I'm a constitutionalist. That is not the purpose of Aadhaar card. When Aadhaar card was created, today you are linking it to same argument. Whatever I have given as a rosy picture, you will counter it with the same things. Tomorrow you will link it to my bank account. Tomorrow you will link it to PAN. Already Aadhaar and PAN are linked.
It's a good thing, sir. We have
Again, that is for you. What guarantees do I have that my data is not passed on to the hands of the wrong people? Okay. So yesterday, a few days ago in Hindu itself, there was an article, right, which shows that an ethical hacker has identified all the flaws in the electoral voting database. Okay. So he had the phone numbers in the database. So you are linking Aadhaar to a insecure database. Okay. Tomorrow the database is leaked. My Aadhaar number is in public domain. Right? So who is responsible? Why should my privacy be exposed? So if I'm a privacy activist or a constitutionalist, that I don't want Aadhaar to be misused. Okay, we are creating one central database which can be misused for 10,000 things. Yes, I can do electoral engineering. If I have the Aadhaar data, let's say hypothetically, if I am the government, I can identify the demographics of a different region. Then I can create pinpointed policies for each constituency. Who is stopping me from doing all these things? That is not the mandate of Aadhaar. But from a governance point of view, Aadhaar will make your life very easy. As a government, you are very happy that there is a system called as Aadhaar. There are at least 5% of the people who still believe that Aadhaar should not be misused. But democracy, right? 90% believes Aadhaar linkage is a good thing. The simplest argument is if you don't have anything to hide, why are you worried? It's as simple as that, right? That is a basic argument. If you don't have anything to hide, what is your problem of linking voter ID with Aadhaar? That is confirmation bias. That means if I am good, everybody should be good. Okay, if I don't have anything to hide, nobody have anything. That is a basic argument that people will give. But if you talk to a privacy activist or someone, he will explain to you what are the long-term ramifications, why it's a, and all these are digital products. Yes or no? but we don't have digital protection law or data protection bill. So the first pass that bill, then do all the adventures you want to do. That can be one more thing.
Non-citizens do have Aadhaar card.
They have voter ID also.
Yes, no. Like let's say I'm not a citizen. I have Aadhaar card. Now showing this Aadhaar card, I will enroll myself in voter list. So then, what is that they are doing?
Yes, I will answer. Yes.
So a few days back, this situation came Aadhaar card number, and you told us the concept about this encryption code and
Tokenization.
okay, yeah. Only that word I was.
Okay, tokenization. I was
So what about Rohingyas?
Rohingyas. Hmm. Hmm.
We have right to vote and all that person.
Technically, a lot of Bangladeshi illegal immigrants, Rohingyas, all of them also have Aadhaar card and voter ID card also. So Aadhaar, again, as I said, is not a proof of identification, citizenship. It's just a proof of identification. So there are problems in Aadhaar card. So the government will try to weed out all these fake Aadhaar card also. Yes. Okay, there is a provision within Aadhaar. If it says that you are from a foreign embassy or something, you can be given a temporary Aadhaar. Okay, so it does not bar you from not having Aadhaar, but it does not guarantee you any citizenship benefits. Okay, so that is why we don't consider Aadhaar as a proof of identity for Citizenship Amendment Act also, or National Register of Citizens. In all these places, Aadhaar is not considered as a valid proof of citizenship. Okay, so your question being, what will they do? So first of all, let's say 130 crore Indians or 90% of 90%, let's say 100 crore Indians are in the voter ID list. Then they will go for re-verification or something. Okay, so it is a time-taking process. Then they might start rectifying Aadhaar database or link facial recognition. So they might add layers on how to verify that you are a Indian citizen. Second best scenario is a illegal immigrant who is coming to India after 2016-17. Okay, he won't get Aadhaar card that easily. Technically speaking, the earlier there was a mad rush, right, to get Aadhaar. There was a huge line. Everybody got Aadhaar. If I go to Aadhaar center now, they are verifying the documents thoroughly. It's not that easy that I get a Aadhaar. So probably from now onwards, the database will be stagnant or standardized more or less. Voter ID.
Voter ID is that many people who are having illegal Aadhaar, who are not having the genuine Aadhaar card also can vote. Now you mentioned that they even have voter ID. That will not stop them from voting. Now how is that a criticism? Like without this also
again, see, did you get that voter ID card to go and vote, or did you get that voter ID card just to prove that you are fellow Indian, like you want to masquerade as an Indian? Just imagine from a illegal immigrant point of view, you just want to blend with the majority, right? So do you have that courage to go to a Aadhaar center or a voting booth and say, this is my voter ID, this is my Aadhaar, verify if you want, I'm going to vote? That may or may not happen. That is a very risky proportion for them, right? So if he is exposed at that particular time, his gamble is out. Yeah. So I don't think all the people who got Aadhaar cards or voter ID cards have planned to vote or are they voting. Okay, it is just to appear like they are normalized. Okay, like I'm also a normal Indian citizen. The more data I gather, like more cards I have of India, tomorrow I will argue my case saying I'm an Indian citizen. For that purpose, probably these people have bogus cards.
Is this not very valid that many
Two things. First one is government wants to link this database and they have a long-term vision. This is just the beginning. As I told you, the logical culmination is tomorrow I might link it to facial recognition. Tomorrow I might link it to only biometric. Tomorrow I might go for digital voting, NRI voting. Right? There are 10,000 other ways that government wants to expand this simple project. Okay, as a migrant labor, you can vote using biometric from any constituency. So you're a citizen of Bengaluru, you're working in Hyderabad, then you can vote for Bangalore. So things might get technical, lot of logical culminations will happen. This is just the starting point. Okay, so we don't even see the long term picture. So I think bogus votes will definitely come down in the long run. So what is that long run? When is that long run? How are we going to reach there is something that has to be seen. As of now, government is hell-bent on linking Aadhaar with voter ID card. So I don't think any questions will come on this particular thing. Maximum a step in good governance.
Since universities are issuing original degrees with this other member, even I got original degree with other member, it was linked to
So Aadhaar have a lot of advantages. Yes. Nobody is denying. As I said, Aadhaar is a long-term solution for a lot of governance problem. If you have one Aadhaar card as a government or as a governance, you are very happy that you have the system called as Aadhaar. License database, voter ID database, house database, even your organ donation, health cards, everything will be linked to Aadhaar in the long run. Yes. I don't think so. That should never be done in a democracy. Voting should never be a compulsory thing. It should be a voluntary thing. And we are not so matured enough to understand the concept of as a democracy to compulsory voting. Sacrilege or blasphemy. Okay. So why are we discussing this editorial? This discussion is in the news because of two things: lynching in Punjab and politicization in and around that particular issue. So, not going into the technical details, a person tried to enter the sacred sanctorum within the Gurdwara, okay, and he tried to pick up the sword or Guru Granth Sahib itself, which is considered as Sacha Badshah, which is the true king of Sikhs, okay. So he tried to defile the place of worship. I mean, by touching things, right? So even in Hinduism, also you don't have access to enter into the sanctum sanctorum. Okay, the core sanctorum. So all these are religious things. Now, the thing is, IPC section 295 and 297 encourages the people or police to arrest the such culprits. According to National Crime Record Bureau data, Punjab has highest number of such sacrilege cases, 295 and 297. That means people are defiling these gurudwaras more than any other religious place, or more number of cases are being filed in that particular area. So what happened is the conviction rate is very, very less. Okay, the conviction rate is very, very less. So the basic argument given by the Sikhs or the opposite side is this: people stand in the line for 1 hour or 2 hours till they reach that holy site. Then they try to do this, stupid activities. Then they are arrested, and in the court they say, "I'm mentally ill." Okay, so I'm mentally ill, and the court does not convict them. So because of this leniency, people are starting misusing this particular thing as a normalcy. So that is why there is a need to set a message to the society that mob lynchings are happening, so that their patience have ran out. That is the argument of the other side. So adding to this is political masters who are like Sidhu and all those people are saying, they should be killed, blasphemy should be, lifetime imprisonment, should be hanged. So when you bring all such arguments, okay, the thing is, it will be converted into a political issue. It will be converted into political issue, and you are just playing with the emotions of the people. Let's say hypothetically there is genuinely someone who is mentally ill, depressed. Okay, someone told him that if you can just touch that, that sacred place, whatever it is, sacred of any religion, okay, the sacred thing of that particular religion, your sins will come down, or you might get healthy. Okay, he might be misguided. We have a lot of superstitious beliefs, right? He might be misguided. If such person is actually doing this to any religion, not only to only Sikhs, right? We are talking about all the religions. Let's say he entered a very important temple and he touched the idol of a god, okay, or he touched a book or something like that. Then he should be normally be arrested. If he's actually in need of a mental care, the state should provide him with mental counseling, but he should not be beaten to death. Okay, so that is the liberal or humanitarian thought process. If he's in the sound mind, if he has done something wrong, he should be punished severely. Life imprisonment is definitely overkill. At the same time, leaving every case as a mental health issue is also a wrong thing. So police reform should be done, right? Then there should be a speedy justice. See, all these mob lynching cases come when people start believing, I'm not going to get justice from proper place. Yes or no? That means the state is not delivering justice. That is when the mob will become the judge, jury, and executioner. Both of them were beaten to death within hours of their capture. Okay, so the mob has assumed if we hand over them to the police, we may or may not get the justice. So there is no point in handing over them to the police. We are becoming the judge, jury, and executioner. So that is not a good thing for the society, because blasphemy is a subjective case. Blasphemy is a subjective thing. Why subjective thing? There is a very famous case in Pakistan. I don't remember the name. She's a Hindu. Okay, she's a Pakistani Hindu. Her neighbor complained. They had a fight. The neighbor and the woman, the Hindu woman, had a fight. Then the neighbor came and said, this particular woman insulted Prophet Muhammad. Okay, this particular woman insulted Prophet Muhammad, which is blasphemy according to Islam. Then the entire country was very angry against her. One woman's word against another woman's word. So there was a jail incident when she was arrested. Obviously, she was supposed to be hanged or something. Then there is a moderate politician who supported her, saying, she should not. You can understand the small implications of these blasphemy laws, right? It creates a huge amount of political cleavages. That means people will find new ways to create ridges. Okay, so if one section of the society is increasing the blasphemy law to a whole new level, automatically other sections will start demanding the same thing. If you spoil the sanctorum of a Sikh religious place, you are punishing them with capital punishment or life imprisonment. Why not do the same for Hindus, then Muslims? So it will create a new fault line for people to exploit. I don't like my neighbor, then I will go and complain. He was insulting something. It creates new fault lines. We already have enough communalization in this country. We don't need new tools or new ideas. Okay, so that is one way. Ultimate solution is if anybody or any religion is getting instant justice, instant in the sense justice by due process through institutions, they won't have to take the law and order into the hands. Okay, so it's clearly institutional failure. So you need to understand the summary. What will happen if we encourage the sacrilege or blasphemy laws? Definitely, it's a wrong thing. Faith is a very, very sensitive thing for all religions. Faith cannot be understood in simple words. Faith cannot be explained in logics. For example, in Oh My God movie, there is a scene where just before the exam, a student takes a stone, okay, puts it under the tree and prays. Every student will start praying. Then then the director tried to make fun out of that particular thing, right? Okay, rationally speaking, before exam, if I'm really tensed, okay, if bending in front of a stone gives me mental strength, I'm okay with it. That is faith. That may not be having any spiritual or religious values, okay, but psychologically it is proving me that there is someone who will look after me, and that gave me an instant self-confidence. I'm okay with it, as long as you don't create fault lines. Faith of anything is okay, right? You understand the point, right? But the problem is faith is misused. Okay, faith is a very subjective term. Faith can be misused in 10,000 ways. For example, if I'm a commercial person, I will sell these stones. Okay, wearing the stone is not a crime. Selling the stone is not a crime. But knowing very well that it may or may not work. Let's say you are a charlatan, you are a total fraud. Then it's a misuse of faith. Okay, and faith is a slippery slope. We don't know where people will end. You get the idea, right? So there are a lot of loopholes in that movie also. Oh my God, nobody counted. Even the Balaji, RJ Balaji's movie, Amor Talli. Yes or no? Amor Talli only, right? Nayanthara is a heroine. Yes, Amor Talli. Even in that movie, there are a lot of loopholes. Okay, so they could have made better movies. I mean, better scenes within those movies, because rationality or faith is something that cannot be explained. Okay.
Movie that portrayed the power of faith so beautifully. I felt for the first time I felt was Charmy's There Is One movie, sir.
Okay. That the Jagapat Babu is a
Yes.
police officer.
He steps on someone's
So there is a group of people who wants to
Yes.
kill her. Yeah. Okay.
justice that is when they become vigilant. What if the court just say 6 months of prison or something?
2 years. I think the section 295 of IPC says 2 years.
The people are still not happy with.
You know, again, see, the thing is, people will be happy if the 2 years is guaranteed. Okay, see, let's say there is a rape case. Okay, the maximum punishment is 7 years or something, hypothetically. Okay, the parents of the girl won't be ever happy for 7 years, right? But at the same time, you cannot keep on hanging everyone. Yes or no? So let's imagine you are going to a hospital with a lot of money. Okay, in your wallet. Okay, some pickpocketer stole your wallet. Okay, because of that, some loved one passed away. You are very angry. But the law says that 6 months is the maximum punishment for pickpocketing. So the crime he has committed is only pickpocketing, but the ramifications might be a lot more. So you'll never be happy with just the 6 months. But that is how the system works, right? So everybody should be convinced that yes, this is the best way forward. But the problem is people are not even getting the 2 years. Okay, so that is why people are bringing in this argument. I'm not saying that argument is justified. Okay, if you're in the system is slow, then you should blame the system to make it faster. You should ask your representatives to make it quicker rather than blame or take law and order into your hand. Clear? Yes. How the code on wages legalizes bond labor. So the major takeaway from this particular article is scrap the labor laws, because you have scrapped farmers bill. Okay, so that will not happen. What is her argument? Her argument is, if I'm an employer, I'm giving certain amount of advance to the laborer. He is more or less bonded to me. Okay, then I can keep on exploiting these innocent people. Earlier, the labor law said, if I have given you certain advance of money, let's say 1 lakh rupees. Okay, next month your salary is 25,000 rupees. Okay, out of the 25,000 rupees, the present law is allowing you to cut back up to 12,500 rupees. So, see, in reality, I will tell you that is how system works. Informally, that is how people work for you. Okay, that means let's imagine you are a Mestri. Okay, you want 6 or 7 laborers to construct a house. Okay, for 3 months you need continuous support from them. Okay, the best way forward is to give them certain amount of advance loan when they are in that demand. Okay, they need that money. You give that money in advance. From then onwards, they will keep working for you. Or else, the problem is you agreed for a construction of a house in 3 months. Okay, today she will come. Tomorrow she won't come. Why? She does not need the money. Or let's say he has drunk in the night and he will sleep for 2 days happily. He won't come to the job. So there is lack of professionalism at the ground level. We cannot expect them to have any professional or overall agreements, right? So this is how Mestris are, the bosses, the contractors try to capture the laborers. When you are in need, I gave you money. So now you have to work for me, whether you are interested or not. Okay, that is a moral obligation that these people are bringing into the argument. But as long as it is done in a healthy fashion, if he's really ill, okay, then the Mestri will say, okay, it's okay to take 2 days rest or something like that. But If it is converted into something like exploitation, bonded labor, then that is the wrong thing. So that is what I told you, right? Indian society works in really different ways. If you don't give them advance, they won't show up. If you give them advance and there is no bondage, they won't show up. Okay, you have to have something, you have to catch their hair and keep the hold on their hair till the 3 months period. If you give them freedom, poof, gone. If you don't catch them, they won't show up. Okay, it's a really complicated scenario at the grassroots levels. Again, there is no justification, so that is why government is probably giving enough freedom to the grassroots level to take care of the decision. So if you have read this article, she is arguing corely based on those two. Money is used as a tool.
The article in specific. We have so many what
Mhm.
it's very different scenario.
Mhm.
How can one law in governance bring everyone under one umbrella? Because like now you just give an example within 6 months, but case to case, everything is so different. Okay, that is again judicial, but when it is this case to case, when it's so different, how to make one law which is adaptable to everything?
Again, if you look at the labor codes or labor laws, as I told you yesterday, they're setting a tone, they're setting a vision to the labor section or a labor area of this country. Okay, they are not specifically saying farmers should be like this, or in housing the labor should be treated like this. Okay, whatever I have said, they do not even come under labor code. Okay, they don't even know that there is such thing called as labor code. When I say labor code or labor laws, it applies to unorganized sectors which are registered, or there is some kind of supervision. Okay, let's say there is a bricklin construction, bricklins, right? So they may or may not come under the labor code purview. Okay, so what government is setting a tone for wherever it can restrict in a separate direction, and it is giving enough freedom to the the employers at the grassroots level. 60 to 80% of the employers, let's say, are doing the good work. Okay, they are using the good things of this law. Okay, 20 people are misusing this law. Okay, but the 20% has to be rectified by time. Slowly the system has to be made better. Yes or no? Tomorrow link everything to Aadhaar card. Let's say wages also. Okay, if the employer is giving you certain amount of salary, is that matching the minimum wage of that particular state? Every state will set a minimum wage, right? So if the employer is transferring certain amount of money, I will know whether he has lived up to the promise of minimum wage. So that is how I will keep the life of that particular person better. Okay, so like this, we have to make the systems better. No single law or act can make the system better, or it cannot be final for everyone. But labor laws, land reforms, all these are like directions. Go north. Okay, go north means I can take different routes, right? Okay, north is a huge space. Any path is towards north only. But sometimes you might go smoothly, sometimes you might face hurdles. So we will make the system better slowly, and that is how. Okay, at the same time, we cannot ignore the atrocities done in the name of these new labor laws. Now, if government is really proactive, mention some cases. Okay, those district administration should proactively inquire in those cases and rectify those mistakes. Slow, steady means the race. Piecemeal approach. Always do piecemeal reforms. Never do heroic activities. No demonetizations. Only piecemeal approaches will work in democracy. As I said, if I'm removing this wire, I should know all the bulbs, whether they are still working or the fans working. The moment I touch this, if the AC is switching off, okay, then I know there is something wrong. So pilot projects, piecemeal approach.
So, unless this article is published in the paper, the administration.
The system knows. She mentions that very clearly, right? Even the system knows, but there is no moral pressure.
Okay. So this newspaper article is like putting
moral pressure. This is like limelighting, right? This is like putting the limelight on the district administration. Tomorrow, the next collector of the district cannot say, "Oh, I was not aware." Then they will show this is a public document. It was published in newspaper. Also, you are not doing anything.
So do these labor codes also have provisions related to criminal activities and violences done by the employer?
Criminal is not under labor codes, right?
But sir, here in this case study, it is mentioned that rape and violences are also happening.
Huh.
As they have given the advances and they are not able to repay the employee, the laborers are not able to repay it. So they are going for the violence and rape as a medium. So is there any provision in this?
Labor codes will have provisions like you cannot give less than minimum wage. That is criminal. Okay, it will be purely on technical lines. Whereas rape is already having a separate section of its own, IPC. So just because you have given a loan does not give you the right to rape. So rape comes under normal laws. So normal laws are supposed to be applied. But here the problem is the people are so disempowered and dependent that, you know, in spite of all these atrocities, they are still continuing with the same employer. You can understand their horrible situation, right? Like the entire community is dependent on 10 or 15 employers. Okay. And because of the employers, at least we are having this much amount of food. Okay. If we raise our voice against the employer,
so they are resisting because they have to earn.
Because they don't have any other livelihood, they don't have any other skill. Yes, the future is even worse. I mean, there are people who are barely surviving, right? Okay, they don't have any other, that is what she brings in Ambedkar, Dr. Ambedkar. He says dependency to that extent that, you know, they don't have any other livelihood. If they are not getting money from these people, even if they are villains, bad people, they are the saviors also. Okay, nobody wants to have such kind of life, right? They want skill development, they want upliftment from the social mobility. So the social mobility is not happening. Compassionate job, not a vested right. So this is again something that you can use in ethics papers also. So if someone in a government service, if a family member dies while doing service, it is not guaranteed that your family member will also get a job. So it is a discretion of the employer to provide you job or not. So compassionate jobs is not a vested right. Okay. Again, I will tell you, India is a variety country, right? Why variety? The soldiers who are working in Kargil and all these places, okay, when unfortunately they were killed, the governments of the respective states announced huge amount of money. Compassionate governments, okay. Some state governments announced 50 lakh rupees, 60 lakh rupees, 1 crore rupees, okay. When I have announced 60 lakh rupees for a family of a soldier, okay, the wife of the soldier, obviously she will be a wife and the child of the soldier. The ramification is the soldier's brother was forced to marry the wife of the widow. Why? That money should not go to the maternal home of the woman. It should stay with the paternal home. The compassionate ground there is the wife or the child will survive with that 60 lakh rupees. That is a compassionate reason why government is announcing. But what did the paternal home of the son think? Okay, if we let her go, she will take the 60 lakh rupees and go to her home. Okay, so that 60 lakh rupees should stay in my home. So what is the next best solution? Marry the widow to the younger brother of the soldier. Okay. Yes, this has actually happened as recently as 2020. Okay. So that is what I told you. Everything has a lot of ramifications in this society. Did that thought even come to your mind? Like announcing 1 crore rupee to a soldier family when he dies in the line of service is a good thing. That is the most compassionate thing I can think of. Okay, but people think in a different way. Paisa mein parmatma. We cannot blame them at the same time. We cannot support them also. We cannot blame them because they are poor. Okay, at the same time, we cannot support them because of idiotic choices. Yes. Okay. So in the same way, compassionate dogs are not a Western right, says Supreme Court. Shingrala in talks with Harshavardhan Shingrala. He is the foreign secretary. His Ministry of External Affairs chief spokesperson, right? So he is going to Myanmar. Now the discussion is that we are legitimizing the military rule in Myanmar. So Myanmar is an immediate neighbor of India. So this article technically says that we are not only talking them as a political one, but as a official one. So India is more or less recognizing the military rule, military coup that has happened in Myanmar recently, and that might normalize the relations. Why?
So that might normalize.
That might normalize, right? If I start talking to Myanmar, then Myanmar military won't have any animosity towards India. See, the strategic autonomy. I need Myanmar to control the Naga rebels. Without the Naga rebels, without the help of Myanmar, I cannot control the Naga rebel issue. At the same time, if I don't recognize them, they won't support me. So in the name of my national security and other reasons, I am trying to normalize the relations. So that paragraph says, right, the visit also underscores the balancing act New Delhi is trying to maintain on upholding democratic values in the neighborhood, but also trying to counter China's influence in Myanmar, which could grow as the regime gets more isolated by aligning India's position to ASEAN's policy. If we don't talk to them, we have more to lose. If we talk to them, only we have to lose face. Okay. It's better to lose face than enter body. Okay. So the summary here being, India is more or less upholding the democratic values. The drama there is, we will go there, we will preach them, democracy should be respected. They will say, okay, now we are friends, submark. Okay, then we will talk about Naga issue or some other important issue. So that Ambassador Badra Kumar captured this in the best way possible than in anything I could probably think of. Just replace the Central Asian states with Myanmar. Delhi must do everything possible to convince Myanmar that its newfound interest in that region is anything but a byproduct of geopolitical consideration or a mere offshoot of tensions with Naga rebels, okay, or China. Okay, this also you can read. We are not doing it for the sake of China. Okay, we are doing it for our own interest. We are doing it because I like Myanmar. Okay, or I like Central Asian countries. I want to develop more friendship with Central Asian countries or Myanmar rather than I'm responding to a Chinese threat or USA threat. Clear? So that is a major takeaway, that we are normalizing our relations with Myanmar. What gets measured gets improved. What is not counted is never discussed. Okay, so if I don't have the data, then there is no discussion. Matter over. Sir, no data on mob lynching. And law and order is a state subject. So you should ask states, not the center government.
Upon this idea, can be privilege motion. The minister is holding the cards.
It's a white lie, right? He's not hiding any data. At the same time, he's not revealing a data. He's not lying, right? Actually, they don't have data. See, that is a smartness. First of all, I need to have something called as National Crime Record Bureau collecting the data. Then am I lying? If you remove the roots, there is no tree. So they are smart enough to know that 3 years or 4 years down the line, people will ask such questions. So stop collecting the data from now only. Because it's not an important parameter. What is mob lynching? How many people killing someone is a mob? 2 is company, 3 is mob. Yes or no? That means how many, like what is the definition of mob lynching? You get the problem, right? So mob lynching is a very, very subjective term. So it can be anger. There are 10,000 reasons why mob killed someone. Okay. So for all these confusions, they directly throw case. Unknown assailants. That's a criminal case. Who? Unknown. That is not mob lynching. One important data. The other day we were discussing about crime and criminal tracking network systems. Okay, so 16,347 the police stations are 99% of the police stations, and 100% of FIRs are being registered directly in crime and criminal traffic network systems. So in 2030, nobody can make the movie Khaki. Okay, the Karthi one, right? All the data is already available. That means all the FIRs registered in this country are digitally recorded with fingerprints, photos, everything. So if you are doing crime in Punjab and escaping to Haryana, it's very easy for you to be tracked. Okay. Value addition is very important. You have to write such data. Next time when you see CCTNS, you have to say, you cannot say the police are lethargic not to register FIR and all these things. Okay. CCTNS will help solve the problems of the country.
Police are working
Vigilantly, in theory, yes. Yes, you can write that.
in theory, sir.
No, real also they are working, right? They are uploading all the FIRs. So this we can link to refugee crisis. Future, you can also link it to climate refugees. Okay, 160 migrants drowned in Libyan coast. So Libya, all these countries are facing a lot of financial crisis. That is a humanitarian crisis. So they are trying to escape to European countries for better life. Yes, and they are drowning. Unfortunately, it's a very, very state of affairs. Developed countries should help the developing nations. So this might change a lot of dynamics. NATO seeks meaningful talks with Russia. So we'll see that article also. It's very easily understandable, right? If NATO is talking to Russia, then Russia might become friends with West, and India will benefit a lot from such dealings. That's all. That's all the major articles from today's newspaper. One article is not Dr. M.K. Badrukumar, I guess. Yes. So you can read this article on your free time. No new value addition, no major value addition. He's saying the same things time and again, that we should develop a long-term strategy with Central Asian countries, or else we will have a lot of problems. Yes.
So in one of the articles I read that when the opposition was criticizing the government for surpassing the committees, joint select committees, the minister justified it by saying that they
Congress
are
has
parliamentary panel. So do you think parliamentary panels are
substitute.
yes, sir, to the committees?
In his understanding, in his defense, what he's trying to say is we are allowing that scrutiny. So the core reason of opposition party criticism is lack of discussion or deliberations, right? So we are giving that scope for dialogue and deliberation. So accountability has improved. So that is the lowest form of benchmark, right? Yes, but something is better than nothing. So that's their thought process.
But still, the debating capacity.
Definitely. Again, when the bill comes, okay. So when the panel gives the report, Parliament may discuss that report. Okay. So that is one hope we should have.
So every ministry has the parliamentary panels.
No, not every ministry has a parliamentary panel, right? They will set up the panel, ad hoc panels, right? Parliamentary panels are more or less ad hoc panels, and certain departments have panels. They have some panels, so they will discuss, deliberate. Most of the bills should be normally sent to standing committees. So that is better accountability, better scrutiny rather than anything else. So bill, standing committee, then debate, then passing the bill is the best way to pass a bill in India. As Chief Justice Ramana criticized, if you don't deliberate on the bill enough, when the judge is giving the judgment, he does not know the intention behind the bill or a particular clause. So the more debates you have, the better for judiciary also. So judiciary, the debates, everything makes the democracy stronger. Right now we are passing the bill in as quick sessions as possible. That is leading a lot of power to judiciary. So executive in its haste is indirectly empowering judiciary. Right?
So, asked a question. Is our foreign policy a response to China's foreign policy or American foreign policy? So I tried to rephrase that question and make how you base your analysis, like rather than in a single liner. But I couldn't do like in that style.
Okay.
So if you can frame, because I want to write an answer. Because when I was reading that article, I was framing some questions, but my questions were not on those lines, and I want to think like that. So I thought writing an answer for that might help me inculcate that. So,
okay, we'll think about it. We'll try to frame some questions. Okay, then I will end the session here. See you all tomorrow.